And today my topic is going to be about capital punishment in America and getting it legalized for serial killers. Imagine finding out that someone who was close to you has just been murdered. How would that make you feel? Obviously, you'd be very distraught. Now think about how you'd feel towards their killer. Most likely, you'd want the same thing to happen to them as they did to your loved one. Now imagine hearing that right after this incident, the killer went out and murdered somebody else. So now they're officially a serial killer. What would you want to happen to that person? What if you found out that they were in jail? Would this be enough for you? Or would you want something more for them? Well, this is why I feel like capital punishment needs to be legalized in our country for all 50 states for serial killers to give them and to give the families of victims the justice that they deserve. Capital punishment is something that's been in our country for hundreds of years. The first execution was in Virginia in 1622. In the 1800s, executions were legal for everybody who had committed murder and any other serious crime. In the 1900s, juries started to have mixed feelings about it, so some people were allowed to spend their lives in prison, while others would face the death penalty. The death penalty remained high up until the 1960s. But then in the last 2 decades, people started to have mixed feelings about it. And this can be due to changes in the way that people are viewing legal issues in our country. And there's been more and more opposition towards it. Now, the last state to abolish it was Maryland, and that was in 2014. So currently, 19 states have abolished it, and 31 states still allow it, including Pennsylvania. This is a chart. You can see in red, those are all the states that still allow it, and in blue, those are the states that do not allow it. Now, the methods of execution are lethal injection, gas chamber, electrocution, hanging, and fire squat. Now, the most common method is the lethal injection. This is the most humane method, and I personally do not agree with the other methods. I would only use the lethal injection. But if drugs are not available, then sometimes they have to use the other methods, but that's not that often. And some facts about the death penalty. Only 1 in 6 criminals on death row in the last 35 years have actually been executed. So a lot of times criminals are being told that they're going to face the death penalty when they're not. So this does not always deter them from committing crime, whereas if they knew they would face the death penalty, they would be more deterred from committing crime. Now, each execution leads to approximately 3 fewer murders. This is one example of how death penalty can work to deter criminals. Each execution prevents the murder of 1 Caucasian, 1.5 African Americans, and 0.5 people of other races. The quicker the executions are carried out, the more the criminals become deterred. Now, why should we make the death penalty legal? Well, murderers should not be allowed to take up room in prisons because there's other people out there that have committed less serious crimes who need to be in prison. And if people who have committed murders are taking up all this space in prison, then there's going to be no room for the other people. Second reason is they should not be allowed to be given special accommodations in prison. 2 or 3 is it deters crime. 4 is that they should have the same thing done to them as they did to their victim. 5, it would save the taxpayers money, so they wouldn't have to be paying a lot of money to support these people in prison. And then the last reason is it will give peace of mind to the loved ones of the victims. Some more reasons why the death penalty should be legal is that people would feel more safe and secure in their environments if they know that the criminals were off the streets. And prison workers would not have to spend as much time caring for these prisoners, and they can focus their attention on other criminals who are in prison for other things. Now, there are some cases where it should not be used. So one case would be if the murder was done to protect oneself against another person. So if somebody was being threatened and they needed to kill that person to protect themselves, then that's okay, and the death penalty should not be used. Another case would be if the person was forced to commit murder, such as when people are in the military and they're at war and it's a life or death situation and they say you have to kill yourself or somebody else. Or if the murder was done as a means of retaliation. for another murder. So, say somebody was murdered and they were angry about it and then they killed that person, then it should not be used. And it should only be used for serial killers who have done at least 2 murders, 1 or 2 murders or more. Now, how can you get capital punishment legalized? You want to inform everybody how it can help to deter criminals from crime. You want to write a letter to your state governor explaining reasons why you think the death penalty will work. And then finally, government would need to pass a bill allowing every state to give death penalty sentences for murders only and no other crimes. In conclusion, you want to talk to your family and friends about the benefits of allowing capital punishment to be legal for murderers in our country. Spread awareness about it throughout your city and state. So again, write letters to local politicians, maybe even get people to sign a petition to make the death penalty legal, and explain how it would give families of victims some closure and some peace of mind. Thank you.